Hey there, you just clicked on First Down Punts. Nice move. This is a podcast about football and how it relates to fantasy football. Hope you like what you hear. We're going to get this thing started. Let's get crazy. And welcome in to another episode of First Down Punts. I'm your host, Coach Chris. Today we're going to be going over our Thursday night football recap between the 49ers and the Rams, as well as a preview for the rest of the Week 5 games. Before we do that, we're going to jump in. I want to let you guys know about a couple of the injury updates we've got today. It is Friday when I'm recording this. Players that have been ruled out going into Sunday's games for fantasy football. Lamar Jackson, obviously, with a hamstring, has been officially ruled out. Cooper Rush will start that game. Chuba Hubbard is out with a calf, could be out a couple weeks. He was already dealing with a calf last week. It just got progressively worse as the game went on and as the week went on since then. So Rico Dowdle gets to start there. Bucky Irving, he's got a foot and a shoulder injury he's dealing with. He's been ruled out and could be out a couple weeks, maybe 3 at the most. In the meantime, Rachaad White, the number 2, and Sean Tucker, which is the number 3. I honestly think Sean Tucker will take on more of the running back role, and Rachaad White will kind of do that split back between running and receiving. Terry McLaurin is out with a quad. He's out for the second game in a row now. Washington does get Jaden Daniels back, so that helps. But McLaurin is out with a quad. CeeDee Lamb out again with an ankle injury. This is his second game missed. Mike Evans missing his second game. He's been ruled out again for the Bucks. Baker is going to play. There was some thing he had. I think he was limited a couple games or days this week, but with a biceps injury, I believe it is. But all the same, Baker's playing, but Mike Evans is out. And then for the Cowboys, Kevontae Turpin. So they're missing CeeDee Lamb and Kevontae Turpin, which makes Jalen Tolbert even that much more interesting in fantasy football. Questionable players going into Sunday, you're going to need to check those inactive lists. Brock Bowers, he's been banged up. He had a knee injury in week 1. He's just been dealing with it since. It's been affecting his fantasy production. And right now, he's been real limited this week and is actually truly questionable going into this game. Juwan Johnson, the Saints tight end. For one, they opened a practice window for Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau. And in the meantime, Juwan Johnson is banged up. I think Johnson's going to end up playing, but we'll find out come Sunday morning. Miles Sanders is questionable for the Cowboys. Another Cowboy that's questionable. If he is, Jaden Blue is supposed to be active this game for the first time this season. More than likely, that's because Miles Sanders will probably be inactive. Calvin Ridley is questionable coming in this game, Titans receiver. Alec Maynard has already been the more productive receiver there, but Calvin Ridley still has talent. It's just about the Titans' production overall. There's a good chance Ridley sits this game just as a veteran, gets a week off and gets back, and they try to get rolling a little bit better next week with all the weapons. And then Deebo Samuel is questionable. He returned to practice today, and good chance he's going to play this week, but just something to pay attention to, especially with McLaurin already out. And then the doubtful tag, Tyrone Tracy. I don't think he's playing this week, but just want to let you guys know. I'm going to do a little screen sharing here. Our Thursday night recap between the Rams and the Niners. Niners win this game 26-23 in overtime. Rams had a chance to tie or win this game. They fumbled the ball away on a Williams goal line carry, then proceeded to not get a 4th down conversion in overtime. So the Rams cost themselves this game. The Niners shouldn't have been in this game if you looked on paper, but that's why they play the games. Mac Jones starts for Purdy, goes 342 and 2. Great game. Kendrick Bourne had a huge game, 10 for 142. Jake Tonjes, 7 for 41 and a tight end and a touchdown. The tight end filling in for Kittle. And then Christian McCaffrey did Christian McCaffrey thing, 30 total touches, 139 total yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Has yet to run for a touchdown this season, but has I think it's 3 or 4 receiving touchdowns now. And then on Rams side, Stafford, 389 and 3, another big passing game. Kyron Williams had 22 touches for 131 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns, but had the goal line fumble that could have had a 3rd touchdown there. And then Puka, still doing Puka stuff, 10 catches again for 85 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Adams, a little quiet today, 5 for 88. But like I said, Rams take the loss. Niners get the win and move to 4-1. Everybody thought the Niners were over. You were wrong about that so far. Going into our Week 5 starts and sits and our previews, the bye weeks again start this week. That'll be the Falcons, the Packers, the Bears, and the Steelers. The 9:30 a.m. game in London, 6:30 for you West Coasters. Sorry for that, but we got to deal with your 10 p.m. games here in the East Coast time zone. But Vikings versus Browns. Browns are playing on. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's wrong. Vikings are playing on another overseas game there. They played in Dublin versus the Steelers last weekend. Now they play the Browns in London. Starts for this game, Justin Jefferson, Will Reichert, the kicker there in Minnesota, and Minnesota's defense. And then on the Cleveland side, Quinshon Judkins, the running back, and the Cleveland defense. Minnesota is missing 3 offensive linemen this game. Myles Garrett and those boys should have a field day. I'm not going to lie to you. It's why my flex guys are Jordan Mason. He would be a full-time starter, solid number 2. But with that offensive line issues and the defensive front in Cleveland, I believe Mason's going to have a little bit tougher day on the ground. Jordan Addison, I'm willing to start him simply because Denzel Ward's going to be guarding Justin Jefferson, make his life a little bit harder. Wentz won't want to force it into spots every time. So Addison could definitely get some more catches. Harold Fannin Jr., Jerry Jeudy on the Cleveland side, willing to flex both of them, mainly because Tillman's out for the season, or out for, not for the season. He went on IR, but I believe he'll be back later this season. So Jeudy and then Isaiah Bond, we'll talk about him in a minute, but those are guys that are going to be the 1-2 probably this week. And then Xavier Scott is a flex. He's a risky flex. He could have been a sneaky start this week just because I believe he's going to have to get a lot of catches if Minnesota's going to have success because I don't think they'll be able to run the ball too much on Cleveland. My sits for this game, Carson Wentz hasn't been playing great, been doing enough. TJ Hawkinson, same story. Hasn't been playing great, and he hasn't really been doing enough. He's had one good game this season. Jalen Naylor, with Addison back, he's not really worth putting in a lineup anywhere. And then something I just forgot to mention again. Dylan Gabriel's starting this game. I'm not starting him against that Brian Flores offense. I would advise you sit him, see what happens, even if he's even on a team in your league. This is more of a super flex kind of start-sit situation. So Gabriel's a sit for me. Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson, the running backs in Cleveland. David Njoku's a sit for me too. I don't know what's going to happen with this offense. I just know Harold Fannin is getting stuff dialed up for him in all types of different formations and plays, whereas Njoku's more of the inline tight end, and that's really his only role. And then the kicker, Smith, there for Cleveland. Not a chance I'm starting him after another bad week last week. Isaiah Bond is my sneaky start for this week. I think with Tillman being on IR, Jeudy not being super productive with the opportunities he's getting, the quarterback change, which is usually when you see a backup quarterback come in, they throw to the 3rd or 4th string receiver because they get more reps with them in practice. That's why I'm interested in Isaiah Bond as a sneaky start. So moving on to our 1 p.m. games, the Texans versus the Ravens. Starts for this game, C.J. Stroud. Like I said, Lamar Jackson is out, so he's definitely not being involved in the starts. Nico Collins, Kyer Fairbairn there, the kicker there in Houston, and the Houston defense with Cooper Rush starting. I'm willing to start this week and have confidence that they could get something going. Derrick Henry, I'm giving him another start. I know he's had a rough start to the beginning of the season, and even with Houston's defense playing as well as it is, I still think they're going to be force-feeding Derrick Henry the ball to try to alleviate some of the pressure on Cooper Rush and a lot of play action possibly. And Woody Marks, the Houston running back, who kind of took over the backfield, they were still splitting with Chubb. He was still splitting with Chubb last week, but he had more opportunities, more carries, and more production, more importantly. And the head coach there, D'Amico Ryans, has already said he's earned more opportunities. I'm starting in fantasy. I'm excited about it this week because I needed a 3rd running back. So Woody Marks, I'm hoping, does good things this week. My flex for this game, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. With all these guys are going to take a hit with Cooper Rush starting. Tyler Luke, the kicker, I'm still willing to throw him into a starting spot, but he's been one of the best kickers in the league so far this season. And more than likely, Baltimore's going to get in the field goal range instead of red zone range. Justice Hill, I think he could be involved this game again with some catches. Willing to flex him in a desperate spot with the 4 teams on bye and all the running back injuries going on right now. Dalton Schultz, Nick Chubb. Chubb, honestly, I don't want to put in, but again, with the injuries and the bye weeks, you may have to throw Chubb into a flex spot just to fill a roster out. And then Dalton Schultz, he's been doing fine, man. I mean, he's not your top tight end, but he can finish as the 12th, 13th best tight end in fantasy damn near every week if he continues to get the opportunity. So just something to think about. My sits for this game, Rashad Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Rush. I'm not starting him against that Houston defense. Baltimore's defense, not starting them with all the injuries they've suffered. Baltimore is missing so many players going into this game. And if the Texans can just get their act together on offense, they should win this game. But Isaiah Likely, he'll probably be back this week, but not willing to start him. And Christian Kirk, not willing to start him for Houston. I think there's too many people mixing into the secondary receivers for Houston with the two rookies, Christian Kirk, Dalton Schultz. All these guys are being involved, and none of them being dominant. So I can't start Christian Kirk. My sneaky start for this week, though, the rookie Jaden Higgins. I think Jaden Higgins, he caught a touchdown last week. He is a big play guy, and on that Baltimore defense, with them being so banged up, the focus is going to go to Nico Collins just because he's the best receiver on Houston. Jaden Higgins could get open for some opportunities, have a 5 for 60 and a touchdown type of day, and make you happy. On to our next game, Giants versus the Saints. Giants got a win last week, the first win versus the Chargers. Saints still looking for that first win. Played the teams tough, but just can't pull it out. My starts for this game, Cam Scatterboo, Graham Gano, the kicker there, if healthy. I'm still waiting to make sure he is, but I should probably put him more in a flex spot. But when he's healthy, he's a damn good kicker. And Jackson Dart's going to help that offense be much more productive. And then the Giants defense is a sneaky start this week. I like them a lot. Playing the Saints. Saints are, I believe, missing another offensive lineman. And that Giants front four is, you seen what they did to the Chargers last week when they lost Joe Alt. They were already missing Slater. They got after it, and they're capable of doing that. And against Spencer Rattler, he's not nearly the quarterback Justin Herbert is. On the Saints side, I'm still willing to start Kamara and Chris Olave. They're still getting enough opportunities, although we'd like to see Kamara get some more pass catching. It's only a matter of time, though, in my mind, that Tyler Shuck takes over, and you're going to see a more fluent offense. Flex spots, Jackson Dart, I'm willing to flex him in this week into a second spot, super flex type spot. Darius Slayton, he's going to take over from the injured Malik Neighbors, who's out for the year. Wan'Dale Robinson, he's been getting enough opportunities. I think you could flex him in here. And then on the Saints side, Rashid Shaheed and Juwan Johnson. If Juwan Johnson's playing, he's a starting tight end. He's questionable coming to the game, so again, pay attention to those inactive lists. My sits for this game, Spencer Rattler, Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller had a real nice game last week, something I'm paying attention to. I just don't see them. I think the Giants could get up on him, and they're not going to be able to run as much. And if that's the case, Kendre Miller's not going to be involved as much in my mind. The Saints defense, no thank you. Obviously, if you're in desperate mode, you could start him because it's Jackson Dart. He's a rookie. It's his second start of the season. But he looked like he could run around enough to keep defenses honest. And if that's the case, the Saints aren't a good defense. So Ben Grupe, kicker there in New Orleans, no thanks. And Theo Johnson, and tight end for the Giants. With the quarterback change, he was starting to come on a little bit with Russ, but with the quarterback change, I'm not starting Theo Johnson this week. My sneaky start for this game, Devin Singletary. I know Cam Scatterboo is the hyped up player that's starting, but with Tyrone Tracy out, like I said, he's doubtful for this game. Singletary was involved last week. He could be involved again this week to try to help that offense. And he's a decent receiving back and a decent runner, so you could use him as that second guy there, give Scatterboo some relief. And if they get up, Singletary could definitely get some more carries. So somebody I think that might be able to score you some points this week. Our next game, Broncos versus the Eagles. Starts for this game, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, Jake Elliott on the Eagles side, and then on the Broncos side, J.K. Dobbins and Cortland Sutton. Those are my definite starts. I think you're fine moving forward with both of those guys. My flex players, Bo Nix. I would like to put him as the full-time starter, but he hasn't been playing great. It was good. It's still good to see him getting out there and running around some more. But just hasn't been playing great. And against a tough Eagles defense, he's going to get some opportunities, but I'm not expecting a huge day from him. RJ Harvey, he's getting more and more involved. And on a week where you got 4 teams on a bye and a bunch of injuries, RJ Harvey, you can go throw into a flex spot and get some points from. Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, these are the same guy. These are, hey, I can throw them in a flex spot in a super flex league in one of those deep leagues and probably get enough points from it, and there's always a chance of a touchdown. So I'm always willing to kind of flex those guys as a bottom third, fourth receiver, flex spot guy. Denver's defense, the Eagles can put up points when they want to. It seems like they haven't necessarily needed to in this game. I think they will have to put up a little bit more. But Denver and Philly's defense, I'm starting every week. That's just all there is to it. They're two of the top defenses, and I'm fine starting them every week. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, You got to start putting them in flex spots instead of full-time starters if they're not going to be passing the ball. This week with A.J. Brown probably drawing the Pat Surtain coverage, it's going to be a little bit harder on him. Maybe Devontae Smith gets a little bit more this week, but we'll see what happens. I just can't recommend starting them full-time when they've had one game out of 4 that they've looked like actual starting receivers. So Will Lutz, kicker there in Denver, always willing to start him. Sits for this game, Evan Ingram and Adam Troutman, the 2 tight ends for the Broncos. There's 3 tight ends involved right now. The other kid got, I think, 2 catches last week, but not really interesting in him. It's just more about he's getting snaps, and these guys aren't on the field when he is. So, and then Pat Bryant, the rookie, still not doing enough for me. Sneaky start for this game, Jahan Dotson with Moss and Surtain out there on the starting corners. Maybe Jahan Dotson's needed down the seam on those underneath routes and can get 4 or 5 catches, get 40 yards and a touchdown. You never know, but we will find out come game time. Cowboys versus the Jets. Starts for this game, start everybody against the Cowboys defense. I've already told you that. Braylon Allen is on IR, out for 8 to 12 weeks. Probably not going to come back this year unless the Jets make some run and make the playoffs. But Braylon Allen got a sprained PCL last week. And like I said, is on IR. So starting Breece Hall, no doubt about it. Garrett Wilson, starting him. He's been productive enough that you can continue to start him. And Nick Folk, the kicker there for the Jets, he gets opportunities. And especially against a bad defense, he can get even more opportunities. On the Dallas side, Dak Prescott, George Pickens, Javonte Williams, Brandon Aubrey, the kicker, and Jake Ferguson, the tight end. Starting all of these guys, man. I think that the Jets defense hasn't been as good as I expected, and the Dallas defense is terrible. I'm willing to start the majority of players in this game. Flex guys, Mason Taylor, he's starting to come on as a second receiver for the Jets, which is what they need. If Fields can get a second receiver, maybe even a third if they trade for somebody, or Arian Smith, the rookie, or Josh Reynolds starts playing a little bit more, whatever it is, being more productive, I should say. I think right now Mason Taylor's that number 2 receiving option, and he's definitely a guy that you can start as a bottom end tight end and get some points out of. And then Jalen Tolbert with Kevontae Turpin and CeeDee Lamb out. Jalen Tolbert, you can put in a flex spot and feel comfortable that he's going to get enough opportunities. I think he had 6 catches last week. I'm expecting something similar again, and maybe gets a touchdown against his Jets D. Sits for this game, the Jets defense, the Dallas defense, Kevontae Turpin. He was questionable coming in when I drew this up, so definitely he's out. And Josh Reynolds just hasn't done enough. Sneaky start for this game, Isaiah Davis, the third-string running back that is not a backup running back. If the Jets get up or they want to continue to just run on Dallas, and because that's the offense they want to run with play action, let Fields get out in the open sometimes. But with him doing kick returns and being the backup running back now there in New York, I'm excited to see if Isaiah Davis can become a fantasy relevant player. I think he's a sneaky start this week with all those injuries we've been talking about. Raiders versus the Colts. Starts for this game, Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren, Daniel Jones, because the Raiders defense hasn't shown me enough, although I'm expecting possible couple sacks because Max Crosby's still Max Crosby. And Spencer Schrader, the number 1 kicker in fantasy. Start him. Michael Pittman, start him as well, although he's a little banged up, so pay attention to that. Ashton Genty had a huge game last week. Not expecting the same production, but you're still starting Ashton Genty. Brock Bowers, questionable coming to the game. I probably should have dropped him down to a flex player right now because you might need to start a Mason Taylor or someone like that if Brock Bowers is out, and just something to consider. But definitely check your inactives, check your Sunday morning inactive list, and see if Bowers is playing or not. And then Jacoby Myers, I'm always willing to start as a 3rd, 4th receiver, flex guy, because he's the number 1 receiver there. He's going to get chances. He's going to get opportunities. Flex guys for this game, Geno Smith. 2 3-interception games has got you dropped down to a flex, Geno. You were ranked, I think, like the 18th, 20th best quarterback coming into the season. That's about how you're playing. You've had a couple games where you throw for a bunch of yards. You've had a couple other games where you throw a bunch of picks. We need some more of those touchdowns, but I can't trust that right now, especially with Bowers being banged up. How productive and Colton Miller, the left tackle, is out on IR now with a sprain. I think he had a sprain, or maybe it's a high ankle. I think he's got a high ankle sprain. All the same, left tackle's out for at least 4 games, and that's going to hurt that Raiders defense, our offense. Another flex, Indianapolis defense, willing to put them into a starting spot this week. Maybe you had the Packers D, you need a filler, get Indy's defense. Trey Tucker, always willing to flex him after that big game a couple weeks ago. And then Dan Carlson, the kicker for the Raiders, always a solid kicker, although he's had a couple misses this year. So Hopefully you don't have to start him, but he's a guy you can say, hey, he's probably going to get some 2 or 3 opportunities to kick some field goals. Sits for this game, Las Vegas defense, Raheem Mostert, Dante Thornton, and A.D. Mitchell. If you watched my video the other day, not too happy with him, not too happy with any NFL player that's more worried about celebrating than they are about actually scoring touchdowns. So there's a chance he's not playing this game. And Josh Downs, who is my sneaky start, is the guy that gets the opportunities this week. So Josh Downs there, the sneaky start with the chance that A.D. Mitchell. I see the A.D. Mitchell thing going one of two ways. One, they play him, he has a great game, and I should have said put him in your flex. Two, he gets benched and he doesn't play this game at all. And Josh Downs becomes the benefactor of that. So Josh Downs is my benefactor, and he's my sneaky start. I think A.D. Mitchell could have less opportunities this game. Next game, Dolphins versus the Panthers. Dolphins lost Tyreek Hill last week. Panthers will not have Chuba Hubbard this week. So 2 things to pay attention to going into this game. My starts for this game, with Tyreek gone, Jalen Waddle becomes a de facto number 1. He was drafted as a number 1 receiver. I think it was 6th overall. Waddle's a hell of a player. His biggest problem is can he play the whole game, because usually he's going in and out. But I'm willing to start Jalen Waddle every week going forward now. Devon Achane, definitely a start. He gets enough opportunities and enough production that you can start him. And in this game, I'm willing to start Tua, man. And I haven't said that very much this year. But against that Panthers defense, I think Tua can have some success, especially with Darren Waller coming back, getting active last week, catching 2 touchdowns. Kind of gives him a replacement target for Tyreek Hill now, and a much bigger target. And then Ted McMillan on the Panthers side, he's the only one I'm willing to start this game. Flex players, Malik Washington, he could be the de facto Tyreek replacement for some of those plays that Tyreek runs, those end arounds, short crossers. He's kind of that player, and he was did a hell of a job in college at making players miss tackles. So Darren Waller, I'm willing to flex him, man. You come in and get 2 touchdowns, I'm willing to put you in a flex spot right away. Definitely, or a fill-in tight end from one of those tight ends, the Tucker Crafts, or one of those guys that you're looking at from the Kyle Pitts. He's out this week. If you've been starting him, grab Darren Waller, throw him in there against this Panthers defense. He might have another 2 touchdowns. Riley Patterson, the kicker for Miami, definitely willing to start him this week if you need to fill in. Bryce Young, I'm willing to flex him this week because the Dolphins defense hasn't been dominant. It looked a lot better last week, especially the pass rush. And with Chuba Hubbard, which I have as a flex here, I need to cross him out, but Chuba Hubbard's out, so don't ignore that flex spot there. But Bryce Young, I'm willing to flex him this week. I think he could have enough production, 220, 250-yard game, and probably a touchdown, maybe 1 on the ground again, and get you enough production that says, hey, man, I need a fill-in number 2 in a super flex, and Bryce Young's that guy. And then Fitzgerald, the kicker for Carolina, been much more productive the last few weeks. If you need a fill-in kicker, he's another one of those guys. Sits for this game, Carolina defense. Yes, Xavier Legette, he's already questionable coming into the game. Might have been ruled out by now. I have to go back and look at that, but I'm not interested in Legette anyways. Jatavian Sanders, he's out, which makes Tommy Tremble a little more interesting, as well as my sneaky starts down there. Hunter Renfrow I wouldn't play him. And then Trevor Etienne, Travis Etienne's brother there, with Hubbard out, he might be involved. I'm just not willing to say throw him in there. He had 32 yards rushing last week. My sneaky starts for this game, I have 2 of them because I wasn't sure if Hubbard was going to even play or if he was going to play and just be part of the game. So Rico Dowdle's that. And then Mitchell Evans, the tight end from Carolina, he was involved last week, and I like Mitchell Evans. I think, like I said, I've said this before, he kind of reminds me of Mark Andrews. He could be a sneaky start at tight end if you're just looking for someone at the bottom of the waiver to grab off and start. Maybe that's the guy you're looking for. Next game, Bucs versus the Seahawks. 2 quarterbacks that were together in Carolina a few years ago. I know that's what the comical thing is to talk about. There was a thing about, do you and Sam, ask Baker, do you and Sam ever talk about the good old days in Carolina? He's like, what days? Because there were no good days, and they ended up getting rid of them both. What a mistake on Carolina's part. But for starts for this game, Baker Mayfield, Emeka Egbuka. Mike Evans is out, so you're definitely starting Egbuka. Chase McLaughlin, the kicker there. And then on the Seattle side, Ken Walker, JSN, and Jason Myers, their kicker. I'm willing to start all 6 of those players. Flex guys, Sam Darnold, Rashad White, Chris Godwin, if he's back, I'm willing to flex him. A.J. Barnes has been more productive the last couple of weeks. I think he's a guy you might be able to pick up and start for a bye-week filler or an injury fill-in and get some points out of a possible touchdown. Charbonnet if the Seahawks, if he's healthy, then he's going to be involved. I'm not huge on starting Charbonnet, but the Bucs are missing a few defenders. And who knows what's going to happen in this game. It's just a game that Charbonnet could get some catches and some rushing opportunities, maybe steal a touchdown from Ken Walker like he's done before. Seattle's defense willing to flex them with Mike Evans and possibly no Chris Godwin this week. They've been playing tough, man. Seattle's been one of the better defenses, and Tampa Bay's defense willing to flex them if I need a defensive start, but trying to avoid it. Torrey Horton, I think you can flex him this week. Cooper Kupp has not been getting it done. Torrey Horton has got more opportunities basically every week, and he's a guy that against that Bucs defense, they're going to be paying a lot of attention to JSN and Ken Walker, and he's a guy that could get loose on the back end. Sits for this game, Cooper Kupp, Sterling Shepard, just not doing enough and banged up himself. Cade Otton, he might be a guy that you could throw into a flex, but after that goose egg he gave me a couple of weeks ago, I'm a little mad at him. But he was much more involved last week, especially with just them needing receiving options right now. And then Bucky Irving, got to sit him. He's out. And the sneaky start for this game, Sean Tucker. I told you, I think he's going to end up getting more rushing opportunities. And Tucker had a huge game last year when he filled in for Bucky Irving. So should be interesting. I think he's a player you should be grabbing off of waivers regardless if he gets the actual start or not. If Bucky's going to be out a couple weeks and you're going to need a bye week filler for some of these banged up running backs. Next game, Titans versus the Cardinals. Starts for this game, Trey McBride, Kyler Murray. I'm willing to start both of those guys, no questions asked. Flex players for this game, Marvin Harrison Jr. Like I said in a video the other day, he almost looked relieved when he finally started producing last week. When he caught that touchdown, he was like a weight was off his shoulders. I almost put him in the start category, but you got to do it again, Marvin Harrison Jr. Kyler Murray's got to get you the ball more as well. So I'm putting you as a flex player this week. I'm willing to keep starting you as a flex guy, but definitely something I'm worried about. Can he keep up the success from last week? Alec Manor with Ridley banged up, and he's already been out producing him. Definitely a guy I think you could flex, even if Tennessee's not having a ton of success in the pass game. The Cardinals' defense is still banged up in that back end, and I think he's a guy that could have 6-7 catches this week. If Ridley's out, he might get to 8 or 9. So Tony Pollard, he's a guy you can flex in there every week. He's going to be fine as a number 3 running back or flex guy. He's not getting a lot of catches, which is bothersome, but it's only a matter of time before he starts producing if this offense gets rolling to where he's getting touchdowns and reception. And then Arizona's defense, willing to flex them just because Cam Ward's been getting sacked a little bit. I think he gave up like 4 or 5 sacks last week. I forget what it was. Chad Ryland, the kicker for Arizona, and Joey Sly, the kicker for Tennessee, willing to start both of them as a flex player. And then DeMercado, he's a flex guy, man. Sits for this game, Calvin Ridley, Cam Ward. As much as I think that he might have some success this game, I'm not willing to recommend him as a start. And then Chigakonkwo, part of that is because of my sneaky start, Gunnar Helm. Coaches came out and said he needs to get more opportunities. He's been on the field enough to disrupt Okonkwo's possibility of dominating the targets at tight end. And Gunnar Helm might be coming alive this week. Next game, Commanders versus the Chargers. Starts for this game, like I said, Jaden Daniels is back. Sam Cosmi had the chance to come back, but he's been ruled out. Deebo Samuel got back to practice, so he should be fine. No Terry McLaurin. Starts for this game, Justin Herbert, Omarion Hampton, Quentin Johnston. He's been their number 1 receiver. You got to believe in it after 4 weeks, guys. That's all there is to it. Cameron Dicker, the kicker, definitely for the Chargers every week. Jaden Daniels starting him. Deebo Samuel starting him. Matt Gay, the kicker for the Commanders, starting him. Flex players, Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey. Not that I think Washington's defense is some pass-stopping game. I just think the success of Omarion Hampton and the way Quentin Johnston's been playing, Keenan Allen's a guy that I'm starting no matter what on my league. But for what I would recommend, he's more of a flex guy. I don't think they'll need him as much this week, more than anything. And with that Chargers defense, they're in a flex spot there. I think you're fine starting them. It's just how I feel about them. They're not a top defense to start this week because Commanders still have a good offense, can still put up 24, 28 points on a week, no problem. And it's not what you're trying to get from the Chargers. You don't want to be giving up a ton of points. The Chargers have been really good, missing Khalil Mack now. we'll see what happens going forward. But I'm not like, oh, you got to start the Chargers this week. And then Zach Ertz, with Daniels back, he should be getting those targets back. And Bill, a.k.a. Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt, I think you're fine flexing him, especially with the injuries and the bye week starting. So he's the guy that's going to get the touchdown more than anything. Sits for this game, Tyler Conklin, Washington defense against that Chargers offense, even with those missing tackles. I think Washington's defense just isn't going to get to Herbert. I think Herbert will have his success. And then Chris Rodriguez, I can't recommend starting him. He's getting enough rushing opportunities, but he doesn't get the goal line carries. He's not getting catches. He's a guy you should have on your bench, but not a guy you should be starting. And then Rondé Gadsden, I was hoping he'd do a little bit better last week. Did not get involved as much as I was hoping. Part of that was I'm sure they were keeping in Conklin to block more, and Gadsden was off the field with the loss of Joe Alt. And then sneaky start for this game, Luke McCaffrey, man. He's got a touchdown in 2 games since McLaurin went down. Let's try to make it 3, even with the quarterback change back to Jaden Daniels from Mariota. I think McCaffrey could still have some success in this game, and Daniels is a better quarterback than Mariota. So Sunday Night Football, we got the Patriots versus the Bills. Josh Allen, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Travion Henderson, and Hunter Henry are my starts for this game. Henry a little bit less, just because Buffalo's been tough on the tight ends, but he's had 2 good weeks. You got to start him and see if you can get 3 in a row. Flex for this game, Drake May. I think the Bills will be able to get a little bit of pressure on him. But I also think that New England's going to try to run the ball more to try to keep that pressure off of them. And the Bills have been giving up yards on the ground. So Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson, like I said, one's a start, one's a flex. Stephon Diggs, he got more involved, had a 100-yard game last week, which is great to see. Khalil Shakir, Matt Prater, Keon Coleman on the Buffalo side, as well as the Buffalo defense. These are all guys I think you could start/flex and be okay with their production. Sits for this game, Antonio Gibson. Although Gibson's kick returns kind of make him interesting, but that all depends if your league gives points for kick returns. If not, I'm not counting on Gibson getting a touchdown like he did last week. So Josh Palmer, not interested in starting him this week. New England defense, sit him if you can. They've been one of the better defenses this league, but against Buffalo, Josh Allen's a monster, man, and James Cook has been running like a champ. Other sits for this game, Pop Douglas, Elijah Moore, Kayshon Boutte. I was hoping Boutte would get going, man. I picked him up in my other league and ended up dropping it a week later because after that big game to start the season, he caught a touchdown the following week. Hasn't really done anything in the last 2 weeks, so I can't recommend sitting him. My sneaky start for this game, Mac Hollins, man. Kind of a revenge game against the Bills. He played for Buffalo last year. I think Mac Hollins is probably going to catch a touchdown in this game. It's just a good chance that even the Patriots and Drake May know that, hey, let's get a little revenge for him. And Vrabel seems like the kind of guy that wants to get revenge. I imagine when they play the Titans, he'll want his revenge on them as well. So our Monday Night Football game, the last game of the week, Chiefs versus the Jaguars. Starts for this game, Patrick Mahomes, always, Xavier Worthy, Harrison Butker, and that KC defense for the Chiefs side. On the Jag side, Travis Etienne and Cam Little, the kicker. Those are the ones I'm confident in. Flexes for this game, Brian Thomas Jr. Hey, man, he got more opportunities a couple weeks ago. Last week, just not enough production, man. I'm still flexing him. I still believe in the talent. I still believe it's going to get going. It just hasn't yet, so I can't be like, you have to start him. Brenton Strange, still think he's a good tight end, 10-12 tight end range. You could flex at any week or put in the starting spot any week, and you'll be fine. Travis Kelce, still flexing him. Kareem Hunt, think you could flex him because I think he'll get a touchdown in this game. And Trevor Lawrence, to me, I would rather sit Trevor Lawrence, but I've got him in the flex because 4 weeks, injuries, 4 teams on a bye this week, injuries going on around the league. The switch from Flacco to Gabriel, which I'm sure you were starting Lawrence over Flacco anyways, but just an example of things are changing in the league. And in a super flex league, you may be forced to start Trevor Lawrence. I hope he gets going because it's hurting the rest of the team. But Etienne's had so much success. The defense is playing tough. And he is just not firing on all cylinders right now. But the Jags have been able to, I think they're 3-1 now, been able to get the 3-1 based off their run game and that defense, which is surprising. But playing the Chiefs, a Super Bowl caliber team, I just don't see. I don't want to start Lawrence if I can avoid it. So sits for this game, Travis Hunter, just not involved enough. Tyquan Thornton with Xavier Worthy back. You saw his production dip a little bit. Hollywood Brown, no thanks. Bayshall Tootin, he could be still involved, just not willing to recommend him as a start against that KC front. And then Parker Washington, he's always a sneaky start, but I'm not recommending him this week. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco got the receiving touchdown last week, which is great, but they're also talking about my sneaky start here, getting him more involved, Brashard Smith. Brashard Smith has got more juice than either of these other running backs. He's probably a better receiver than either of these other running backs, and it's only a matter of time before they have to start getting him on the field to be more productive. And with his speed, in the type of offense that the Chiefs and Andy Reid and them want to run, when they want to stretch the field like they were planning on getting back to this season before all the injuries and stuff, Brashard Smith could help that cause. So he's a sneaky start for me this week, someone to pay attention to moving forward. Other than that, guys, like I said, we'll look out for those running back injuries, and we're going to get out of here. Hope everyone's having a good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're watching. Until next time, I'm out. First down, Punts!